4 years ago when we started this venture, we weren't a middle market agency. And that was all right at that time. We wrote a lot of small hometown, Main Street type business, handshake and a relationship, handshake and a promise. Average account size went about $500 average revenue size. We're well above the 7,500 mark of average revenue size now. That was 2021 when this started. Closing ratio went from 40, 50%. We are above 80% hit ratio.
Is that with the Wedge, you know what the competition is not doing, and you help the buyer realize what the competition is not doing, and you do it without being negative.
James Thomson. I am the Vice President of Property and Casualty Sales Manager of the First Commonwealth Insurance Agency. First Commonwealth Insurance Agency has been in existence since 1998. I became a part of it in 2014. I had a little bit of background in insurance prior to coming to the firm and just kind of cut my teeth in the industry, starting at the bottom, selling personal lines, selling one-off single line item policies to individuals, and have, kind of learned the ropes moving up to right now, right?
Here you are today. Awesome.
Yep.
Well, one of the critical things we want to talk about today is really how commercial insurance agencies write those accounts that are 7,500 to 50,000 in revenue. And, what's easy, what's difficult about it. And then maybe how does Big Nation kind of tie into that for you guys? So do you want to kick off with just kind of anything about what that middle market is like for you guys?
Yeah. So the middle market, as we sit here today, for us as an agency, is an active group of opportunity that we're constantly trying to improve our position from an agency perspective to win more business. For us, 4 years ago when we started this venture, we weren't a middle market agency, and that was all right at that time. We wrote a lot of small hometown, Main Street type business, handshake and a relationship, handshake and a promise. And now we would probably position our agency as, hey, we're a firm that wins where the small local brokerage falls short of resources, and where the large kind of alphabet player, where the client is too small for them to gain the attention. And it's been a great fit.
Awesome. So talk a little bit about what that transition was like, going from, mostly personalized and small commercial Main Street to middle market. What was that transition like for both, the firm and your producers, and, what'd you have to do differently?
Yeah, we certainly didn't just turn a key. It all of a sudden magically happened. We were getting to the point where the number of counts that we had compared to the number of service staff that we had was getting to be at capacity. And we weren't really growing by any significant measure. We're a wholly owned subsidiary, and our parent company, it doesn't really push that hard for growth, but we'd like to substantiate ourselves. So we were driving ourselves with growth mechanisms that we wanted to reach and we knew would be difficult in our current state. So our goal was to kind of sit back, review the numbers, review the portfolio, understand what we're doing, and then say, okay, how can we get this to a 15% year over year organic growth mechanism, specifically in just commercial lines moving forward? And we kind of backed into the CRM in that regard, right? So we wrote a plan, found out where most of our average revenue cases were, what it amounted to, and then decided, hey, how do we grow that piece by piece? And it took some time. The CRM was the easy part. The planning took a year at least before we could get everybody aligned, everybody involved, and then put all the pieces together.
And so then what were the kind of the mechanical things, if you look at it like I'm building a ship? I mean, what was it that finally got you from this place over here to that place over there?
Yeah, just the recognition of what type of accounts that we wanted to go after. And also, if we were going after them, what was the differentiator that would make the client want to buy us versus anybody else? At the current time, when we started the process, we really weren't that different than most folks. And that was okay to a certain degree. But the Big Nation CRM allowed us to identify and articulate our differentiation, not just for my producer team, not just for the client, but also just kind of set the standard from top down. That's down to account executive, account manager, and CSR to understand what it is we're doing out in the field and what it means when we onboard a client that is of middle market capacity, what it is they're getting, and how does that change?
Yeah, so for a lot of clients that we work with, they start off with we're local, we care, we have good markets, we got smart people, we have experience, and we have knowledge. And then you morph into a service stack of 6, 8, 10, 12, 15 services that are black and white named and enable you to, two or three things. Number one is your salesman needs to become better because now you're thinking about concrete things that make you better rather than idealistic stuff. The actual sales call gets better because your producers now have something concrete to go wedge on. And then your service gets better because now the promises you made, you can turn them into documented deliverables rather than vague promises. So has that happened for you guys to any extent?
That has 100% happened. To a degree, we continue to improve on it. At the onset of this, one of the last pieces we did once we devised the plan was get all the producers in a room for a couple days straight and do nothing but write out everything of the picture perfect, right? The full proactive service wedge, write it out from qualifying question down to the how. I remember walking out of there with 15 identified, fully defined proactive services. We probably went on 5 to 10. And the top 5 are the same ones over and over again. As we've gotten experience, more are starting to develop with a little bit more of a regularity. But yeah, knowing that we've got 10 and then getting really specific on the top 3 or the top 5 is what helped us the most. And with regularity, that became pretty easy for our service team to understand and support.
2 things happened, I imagine. Talk about that if you can. And number one is account size went from X to something multi-X. Closing ratio went from something to more than likely something higher. And then number of accounts you got by BOR, in other words, you're not quoting, but you went by BOR, probably changed significantly. Can you talk about those 3 things?
Yeah. So average account size went about a $500 average revenue size. We're well above the 7,500 mark of average revenue size now. That was 2021 when this started. About $500 average revenue in just commercial lines.
15x for those of you out there listening.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, your closing ratio went from what to what?
This was the deal breaker. This is where our support staff really became part of the team and part of the process to understand. Our closing ratio went from, 40, 50%. Hey, I got this opportunity. It's coming to market. Here are the apps. Let's get it quoted, right? We are above 80% hit ratio. And there's one factor in there too that I think gets lost in all of this. This is great that what we do from an agency, but our perspective in the marketplace as agents and brokers with our carriers is we are a top of the pile brokerage. They know if they're getting a submission from us, our underwriters have a legitimate chance as to what is happening with this account. It's real, it's live, it's not a quoting exercise. The walkaway power is what gained us probably the most advantage in the marketplace to my producers to recognize, hey, we're not moving forward here. This really isn't an opportunity, at least for this year.
And so what gave your producers the walkaway power? In other words, what's the difference between how they see the world, their mindset, their confidence, their power now versus what it was like before? How'd you get to that transition?
Yeah, that's just practice. That's the recognition of the takeaway. That's the white flag. That's the rehearsal. And we work on that regularly. Our team will come back and say, look, I'm 4 out of 5 on the 5 did days. I think I do want to take this to market. And sometimes that happens, right? We're not 100% BOR agency. We're just not wired that way. And I get it. All right. But if you're not completing 4 out of the 5 did days, you're not creating submission, you're not having additional conversations. So our team knows that, hey, 2, 3 out of 5, you're not going to gain any traction. You're probably going to get rolled. So there's no sense of moving forward.
Yeah. So let me give you a little, for those of you who are listening from the outside, a little inside scoop. So what we teach our clients, like James and his producers, is a sales process called the Wedge, and it's got multiple steps. He brought up a couple of them: fishnet, qualifying question, picture perfect, rehearsal, takeaway, different things like that, different steps. But also, as a leader, when a producer goes on a sales call and comes back, then we've taught everybody what we call the 5 did days. And here's what they are. Did the buyer tell you what the other guy wasn't doing? The biggest emphasis and the difference between the Wedge and almost all the consultative stuff is that with the Wedge, you know what the competition is not doing. And you help the buyer realize what the competition is not doing, and you do it without being negative. So number one, did the buyer tell you what the other guy wasn't doing? Did he tell you there's a problem? Did he tell you what they want? Did they invite you in? Did they tell you they fired the other guy and hire us? And those are the 5 did days. And if somebody doesn't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, bing, 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 in many cases, James would say, and his producers say, I'm not going to work on it because my chances of winning rapidly diminish when you go from 5 down to even 4. of those things. Is that right?
100%.
Cool. So I want to back up, because a lot of things, the kind of our whole platform is 7 steps to 7 figures for producers. Step number 1 has a lot to do, with motivation, engagement, getting that emotional charge of what it's like to go build a huge book of business. But it's not just about money. It's that money enables you to send your kids to nicer schools, nicer cars, take your wife or spouse to 5-star restaurants, go on exotic vacations, prepare for the future, have a big old financial bucket when it's all said and done. It's not just about ego and make more money than you do. So how was that, taking them through the goal setting process that we've tried to bring to the table? Did that impact your producers in any way at all?
Absolutely. So getting them to recognize the amount of revenue needed in a short term, let's say 1 year period, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year, does become the motivation. Right? Hey, we have goals. Every producer delivers to me what their annual goal may be. But the most significant impact I've seen it have on not only the producer themselves, but to the team at large is knowing the average case size, knowing their own personal average case size, and knowing where their time is being spent. A producer that is getting into the weeds a little bit as to what may be happening on the service side or trying to maybe hold an unsophisticated client's hand typically falls back into the point where, hey, you're working on cases that are below your average case size, right? Your average revenue size, that one KPI that's most important to you, that is that motivation to save for your kids, for your college, for whatever it is you have in your life goals, really becomes the determining factor as to what it is you're doing and what direction you want to go, not even that day, but for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years. And it's always moving, and it gives them the ability to track it, right? Hey, if I land this $10,000 revenue account, this means my average case size is going to change in this way, shape, and form. What does that do to my day-to-day? And it's been pretty impactful. And quite frankly, you become a more, I hate to say manageable producer, but you become a more understanding producer of what really makes the needle go. Right.
And the fact that is integrated into the CRM technology versus a separate spreadsheet, do you think that's meaningful in any way?
It's meaningful because it's easy, right? People aren't checking the dials every day. But if I've got a producer that is coming, and I don't have to go to producers now and say, hey, where are you at? You're behind on your numbers. Usually they'll come to me. I need help with this. This is where I'm at, man. I'm in the law. No producer is operating at 100% efficiency 100% of the time. And then I really need to come back and work on this area. I'm having struggles here. I'm missing appointments. All right, what are we saying? How we position it? Thought I really had this one. Didn't get it over the goal line. All right, let's talk about what happened. And those are opportunities to, I believe the wins that we have had have come from the failures that we've had prior to it. And the CRM has allowed us to identify in unique specifics, take
specificity.
That out, right?
Well, yeah, however you want to say it.
Specificity, right? Yeah. Where it is that we need to get better. And then, how we play that in particular type of cases, particular type of industries, it's all trackable. It's all in line and it all helps producers win. And so I've got a team that is bought in and understanding like, hey, if I don't win this one, I'm going to learn from it and it's going to help me on the next one. So that's important. It's something we didn't have prior to.
And has your growth rate, year-over-year growth rate changed very much?
Yes. Not hugely significantly, but significantly enough, right? So in November 2024, which was the most recent completed month, we were a $1.2 million revenue agency in just commercial lines. When we started this process in 2021, we were $700,000 of revenue. We're not tripling, but we're growing with consistency, with measured capabilities. We understand what's coming down the pipe next. Hey, we land 2-3 more accounts like this. I've got to back in some support staff. I got to get another CSR. I got to get another account executive. Then I get another producer, right? Follow the path. It's pretty easy.
You're being a little modest. It sounds to me like you're just under doubling in 3 years.
Yeah, I guess that is a little bit modest. I mean, we didn't go out and win $150,000, $250,000 accounts. We just slow and steady wrote your 8, 9s, and 10s. Yeah, we did have a couple opportunities that really hit the bottom line that were a little bit of a larger stature, but we didn't do anything different for them that we wouldn't have done for the $10,000 revenue case. Just happens to be more zeros.
And so is there any one thing that when you look at it in the rearview mirror that had the biggest impact that moved, whether the emotional needle, the closing ratio, the average size account? Was there any one thing that you think just kind of you could look at and say, this is a big deal for us?
As in like one case?
One thing as you sit there and you start implementing, the goal setting, the differentiation, how you prospect, how you sell, how you run sales meetings, how are you hiring new producers? I mean, or maybe it's just kind of an aggregation of all of it for you, or I'm just.
It is. It's an aggregation of all of it. It is our process, right? So down to how, the administrative person enters vehicle fleet, they understand what that impact means when it goes to the account manager, when it goes to the account executive, and why that statement of values review is such an impactful tool to the producer on either a retention tool or an opportunity for new business. Everybody understands what everybody is doing at all points in times. That creates, internal relationships where we've got willingness to call each other out certain degrees because we understand what's going on. Hey, this isn't getting done, or what do you need here? Or I can tell we're getting into the weeds a little bit here where really we don't need to be. How can I help you? And it has just created a culture within the agency that everybody knows what everybody else is doing at all points in times. And everybody also understands their own role.
Cool. So a lot of people feel or believe they have a sales playbook. If you ask the football team, do they have a sales playbook? If they can't draw out the X's and O's and pull out the plays and give the names, they don't have a playbook. So do you kind of look at this the same way, like the before and the after of the impact of the playbook, and then what that's done for both support staff as well as producers as well as leadership?
Yeah, without a doubt, it is our playbook. Our proactive services that we developed consists of those 15 to 20 plays, 5 of which we're really good at. We got more plays to run if we need to, but try to stop us on the top 5, all right? We're still going to win. We're still going to make the playoffs with it, right? Everybody knows their parts in that play that we're running. When I come back and we're taking a client to market because we completed all the 5 did days, and it is a statement of values review, it is a corporate narrative, it is an exposure worksheet comparison, it is all of the things that we do really well. We hand it to that account executive. They know how to market it. They know how to deliver it to our markets, to our underwriters. When it comes back, the account manager of that case understands what it is we're doing with that client. Everybody's on the same page. We're all running sweep left. We don't have a lineman thinking it's going right.
All right. So let me ask you this. There's a lot of agency owners out there looking at Salesforce.com, and they always will. Salesforce has done an amazing job of marketing their product. It's easy to buy into the bells and whistles and what it'll do for you and all that sort of stuff. You might have used that in the past, or certainly you've had the opportunity to use it in the past. How would you compare the two, Bignition versus a Salesforce, as it relates to being a middle market insurance agency that wants to go right, 7, 10, 12, 15, $20,000 revenue accounts and drive a sales team?
Salesforce is not an insurance specific CRM. You can make it that way. And you're going to spend a lot of time, calories, and effort designing it more so to the commercial insurance producer and agency. But for Bignition, from my perspective, it's all right there with the pieces already in place. I've used Salesforce in the past. It's a nice tool, but it doesn't get down to specifics. It doesn't articulate the process across the whole entire team. At least it didn't for us.
Can you think of any one win that you go, man, that was sweet?
I can, yeah, but I like, my favorite types of wins are the 10s to 15s, man. And those are just easy, right? Those are services that we're delivering that they're not getting in the open marketplace, that are really giving the insurance buyer an understanding as to what's happening in the insurance program and what it is we deliver. And every one of those are the best. I'm not saying that I don't have some big wins that I'm really proud of, but the big wins that I do have definitely keep me up at night. And I think it doesn't matter what type of service you're delivering or how that works. You always have the uneasy feeling as to whether or not you're going to be displaced. The 10s, 15s, man, it's just solid. Our clients like us there. It's got a higher retention ratio than the rest of our book. That's typically not in jeopardy. And if for some reason it does go away, it's much easier to replace for us. So that's our sweet spot. That's where we're hitting singles and doubles all day. So all of those are my favorite. The big ones are great to celebrate. They do add a level of stress that, you got to recognize are going to come with it regardless of how well you are executing.
Got it. And so what would you say to the agency owner that is hearing you talk and go, wow, I'm not sure we have any proactive services. It sounds really hard and really expensive. What would you say to that person?
Yeah, it's not really hard. It's not really expensive. It's just a blueprint as to how you better articulate what it is your agency is probably already doing or certainly capable of, and creating a uniform culture that can not only deliver that to the client, but can have, support teams to deliver that to the producer with ease. There's no disconnect.
That's awesome. So you've almost doubled in 3 years. Your average size account's going up 15x. Your closing ratio's doubled, gone from 40 to 80%. And the number of accounts you get by BOR is up significantly. That's pretty good, man.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's still going.
Yeah, it just started. One other question. Have you added any new producers to your team?
I have added producers to the team. I've added small business producers, and I've added middle market producers. I've also, we have another revenue division, which is our employee benefits team. And our employee benefits team has always kind of operated without the Bignition philosophy or, the Wedge philosophy and the Bignition platform. As of earlier this week, we sat down. We're at the point where we wrote out all of our proactive service wedges. And these guys are ready to roll with a methodology that hopefully can be mimicked as to what we did in the property casualty space. I'm pretty excited for them. It's taken a long time to get them to buy in on it. And, we'll see how it goes.
See how it goes. All right, man. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you being with us today, James. You've done a great job and just wish you great continued success.
Thanks, man. Have a great one.
Appreciate it.